This episode of Around the Layout is brought to you by Spring Creek Model Trains. Family owned for 25 years, Spring Creek is your destination for model trains. Check out springcreekmodeltrains.com for a wide variety of offerings from today's top manufacturers and exclusive products found nowhere else. Whether in Deschler, Nebraska, or at a train show near you, stop in and say wow. To see where they'll be next, visit their website at springcreekmodeltrains.com. If you're looking to bring more realism to your layout industries, look no further than TullyModels.com, the home of Southern Tier Grain Modeler Supply and Steel Mill Modeler Supply. With models to fit steam, transition, and diesel eras, Kevin Tully has you covered with all of the components you'll need to take your grain and steel mills to the next level. Check out the entire catalog at TullyModels.com. Home Shops is pleased to announce the first annual Freelance Forum at the Colorado Rail Proto Meet, September 27th and 28th in Greeley, Colorado. Come join this gathering of freelancers with models on display, clinics, and freelance trains running on the amazing Colorado Model Railroad Museum layout. Bring your railroad's business car and add it to the first ever Freelance Forum office car special. Don't miss out. Register today at corpm.org. For more information on the Freelance Forum and to add quality freelance rolling stock to your fleet, visit homeshops.net. ATLP Extra is our monthly newsletter delivered right to your inbox each month. Sign up for free at atlpextra.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. We're going to be talking about OPSIG and an exciting new program from them. And joining me to do that is the executive producer of Around the Layout podcast, Paul Cassar. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Ray. Pretty good. Just getting out the back of winter here, so I've been doing a little bit of operating on the layout because it's been a bit wet of late. So lots of operating, doing quite well, and looking forward to hearing all about OPSIG. It's a group that I'm certainly interested, and follow them on Facebook. Great to have Paul here, who you're about to introduce.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's going to be two Pauls tonight, so hopefully we can keep this all straight. Joining us from OPSIG is Paul Weiss. Paul, welcome to the show.
What a pleasure to be here, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here, and you get some exciting news hitting with this brand new AP program and all the things that OPSIG does to advance operations forward. Paul Cassar and I are big fans of operations. Paul Cassar, you just mentioned that you've been doing some operating, and you've got a small group down there in Australia that you've been spending time with as well, operating. So this is going to be really fun for all of those folks to start to get involved.
I think for me, there's been I would say a large explosion of people building shelf layouts, end-to-end type of layouts. And I think what's natural that comes out of that is a interest in operations, because you're not just sitting there watching trains go round and round. You're actually having to operate naturally because of a shelf layout. So I think that it's a natural progression from building a layout, and certainly a shelf layout, into learning and want to gain experience in operating a layout as prototypical as possible.
Yeah, and available to us with a ton of resources is the OPSIG. Paul, why don't you start to tell us a little bit more about what OPSIG is about?
Fantastic. And you've already answered your own question. It's about operations, of course, Ray. There's tremendous overlap. People who are active in the hobby are often members of the NMRA and maybe the LDSIG, which is a layout design group. We are OPSIG, an operations-specific group. And there are not quite 1,400 paying members. And one of the things that struck us lately as we were sort of looking at the OPSIG offerings is that you did mention Facebook, Paul, that there's an active Facebook group that we started just, not that long ago, actually after the first of the year. And we've grown to about 800 members of the group, which we're very happy about. But more interesting is that for many years, we had a static Facebook page. That's not a terribly interesting thing, nor is it a big draw. But there were 4,000 people who were watching the static Facebook page. So to us, that's sort of an indication that in the operating community, there's a lot of people sort of looking in the glass, trying to understand what the on-ramp is, how do they get involved, what's the content going to be like, all those things. So we've decided over the course of this year that we're to really take advantage of exactly what the other Paul described, that there is an explosion of interest in these concepts. We all know who've been doing it for a while. That's a really fantastic hobby. And the community is really a powerful part of it if you're a member of the community. But if you're at home building a layout, how would you advance? How would you meet these people? You don't even know that they're out there. And that was my journey for many years. I was a solo hobbyist since I was, 9 years old, as these stories go. And it was a very enjoyable solo hobby. And it was only the result of certain, good luck and coincidences that I even knew that there was an operations hobby and could get involved in it through people I accidentally ran into. So that's been a big part of it, is to make sure that we can embrace the community and provide ways that they can come play in our sandbox and see how much fun we're having.
I still contend, and I'd base this on absolutely no facts whatsoever and just my gut feeling, that the interest in model railroading takes a significant uphill climb, as in it shoots off when people discover operations. And I think that really part of that is discovering purpose for their layouts. Is that what you also find as well, Paul?
I think it's discovering purpose for the layout, but I want to make sure that in parallel, we talk about the wonderful community, right? Because if you're finding purpose in your layout and you're finding it in parallel with other people who can either advise and contribute or are on the same journey of trying to discover, that's really cool. And I think what I didn't expect, I know what I didn't expect, is I have many dear friends that resulted from this humble idea of finding purpose for the layout, right? And of course, it can go in so many different directions, and you get a chance, if you're integrated into the community, to meet so many people who have already taken the journey. And that's true of your modeling, of course, but it's particularly true in operations because there's less literature and it's less obvious what it is and why you would do it until you're lacking purpose, as you say. And then you start to look around and find that there's this great opportunity.
I think of it as layers. If you think about, I have a shelf modelers group. There's 24,000 members in the group now. You start off in a community. We started off shelf layouts. You look at building a shelf layout, but then it gets more. You talk about scenery. Then the next layer, you start looking at operations, and that's multi-layer. When you look at what program do you want to use? Do you want to use switch list? Do you want to use waybills, car cards, or like myself, I've recently gone to electronic waybill and car cards. It's just added another dimension to my hobby. And on top of that, Ray and I are addicted. We have a bit of a problem with protothrottle from Ira Scale Engineering.
Yeah.
As soon as you get one of those in your hands, you're addicted. And I don't know how many I've sold by having people come and operate my layout using the protothrottle. It's another dimension. So it's a multi-dimensional addition on top of model railroading. So the whole operational aspect. I'm a converted, so I'm talking from my own Bible, I guess. But I love operations. I love going out into the layout and being able to switch, and it's realistic. And I have a program that enables me to do that. Not everyone has to have the same. There's so many good programs out there, or different styles of operations, that I think it covers everybody's requirements.
And I think you make a very interesting point, Paul, when you talk about how many different aspects there are to operations and how many different approaches that there are. We have a layout here in Northern California, and we're modeling a very specific prototype on a certain day, and getting it exactly right. All the rolling stock, all the train movements, all the scenery, the timetable, the waybills, the tremendous effort to make it exactly correct. And that's one end of the spectrum. And we've got rivet counters in our group, and I could maybe acquire a piece of rolling stock and they'll say, no, right? It's officially my layout. But at the same time, people have very strong ideas. And operations could be as simple as red and blue thumbtacks that you drill a hole in a boxcar and move things around by color. Whatever your level of interest is, it's this fantastic simulation game, and you can absolutely do the full deep dive into the simulation, or you could just dabble with it. And then we bring in again the power of the community. You get to see what other people are doing. And you may well be very into double track modern railroad operations. And then you get to go and visit maybe in one of these operating weekends, and you see somebody who's got 1906 modeled accurately. And you're like, oh, wow, that's like a whole different world. And look what the gentleman or the lady had to do to create that world, 1906, and the locomotives and all that, and how operations happened in 1906 is different from 1956, which we modeled, and 2006, where it's completely different again. There's something for everybody who just is interested in playing this wonderful game.
And it's probably fair to say that the prototypical railroads, and I've been in the rail industry for 46 years, never get it right on the day either. You know, they're always trying to improve, and you know, every incident they have, look at how they can improve it better. So we're actually reflecting what happens in the prototypical world.
Well, but there's a really important exception too, and you know this full well. We're all rookies. And of course, relative to the prototype, we're uber rookies. But even as you move around and operate on other people's layouts, you show up and you don't know what's going on. There's a certain amount of learning curve. And part of what's wonderful about almost all the operating layouts that I visited is that the owner curates, hopefully, a sense that it's all in fun, that mistakes are going to be made, that making mistakes is what helps you learn as a roving, amateur operator. Oh, I made a mistake. I went down the wrong track and I wasn't reading something or someone didn't tell me something, and you get better at it. And that's a wonderful part of the journey. And that will segue when we talk a little bit about the achievement program, which really encourages more than anything else for people to get out there and gain some experience, because it will help you with your home layout. It will help you with your layout design plans if you don't have a layout yet. It'll help broaden your mind to these different things that different owners have done. It's fantastic.
I know one of the things as well, you talked about learning curve, but in reality, some of that can also be intimidation. And if you've never operated before, if you are an Uber rookie and see a massive layout or even a small layout that has a lot of things going on, it can be very intimidating for a multitude of reasons. Talk a little bit about how OPSIG is helping get new people not only into operations on their own layout, but be able to connect with other people as well.
I would say that there are two big initiatives that we have right now at the OPSIG that are trying to connect people and give them opportunities to grow and learn. Some of those are maybe sort of pointing people away a certain direction, and others in the achievement program is like, here's what we're expecting of you, and go out and find some of these things, and we'll do everything we can to help. But the fact of the matter is, of course, the person's going to have to take some initiative, put themselves in some situations that may be a little bit uncomfortable. It very much, no matter how we support it as an organization, it's still very much going to rely on the individual. I know for me, I'm really enjoy bringing people into this side of the hobby. And I was thinking about what you said earlier. There was one gentleman who I said, you're going to come operate with us next month. And he said, I don't want to do that. And I said, yes, you do. And you're going to come. He told me afterwards two things, or maybe three things. One, he had an absolute blast. Two, it completely changed his perspective on the hobby. And three, most interesting, he said he was nauseous for the whole week in advance of the session. And I said, oh my God, I mean, it's just us. We're your friends. It wasn't right. But so there's this real feeling of, I'm going to do something and ruin the session. I'm to go the wrong way and everyone's going to scream at me. So yes, encouraging people down at ground level to just grab a friend or a neighbor or someone who's looking for a hobby or someone who's got a small layout and doesn't know what to do next, and to take them by the hand and to pull them into situations where they can thrive. In terms of the OPSIG, I didn't answer that part of the question. Two of the biggest initiatives from this year, I told you about the static Facebook page, turning that into a group. And it's really one of the few Facebook groups that's really focused on operations and also provides a platform recently for us to talk about the AP program. And I think whenever you're ready to talk about that, and it could be now, to me, it's my pet project, the AP program, to really encourage education and participation and on-the-job experience, which are non-controversial things to expect. We're not licensing anybody. No one's going to get killed on a model railroad or anything like that. Just giving people a chance to learn stuff that they might not have had a chance to learn, and hopefully to seek out opportunities to do stuff that they may not have really sought out before. And if we can do that successfully, and as you mentioned in the comments before we went on the air, that this seems to be going viral a little bit, it's nice for us to imagine that, but we can really see energy around recognizing people for what they've done in the past and giving them a path to do some new things. And we could talk more about that along the way.
Well, let's start right in the beginning of what your role is with OPSIG and how this even began to come together.
Well, you had asked about the history of OPSIG, and I think one of the things that is usually associated with OPSIG is the long-term publication of a really excellent magazine that's dedicated to operations. So the Dispatcher's Office is the name of the magazine. All the members of OPSIG get it. If you're happy enough with a digital version of it, OPSIG membership is $10 a year. Now, I'm not here to sell memberships. We have 1,400 members. We're doing fine. But it's one of the great values in the hobby, because if you're interested in operations, even if you're an outsider looking in, you can read articles about layouts and techniques, and some of them are very advanced and some of them are not. But that's the point. There's something for everybody in operations in the magazine. And for many years, OPSIG was particularly focused on the offering of the magazine, and with good reason. In the last couple of years, the board changes over and new people come in. Rick Watson is the president of OPSIG. I'm the vice president. And he and I started to have conversations about some of these ideas, and maybe it's time to roll something out. OPSIG hadn't done programs like this before, so it can be a little bit difficult and disturbing to suddenly mandate some changes when it's been a while since there's been much change, and to support these new programs. The board was interested enough in these ideas to encourage us to go forward. We spent a lot of time on the Facebook group, which seems like it's a success. And then we got the green light to do the AP program, which is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And I'm really thrilled that Rick is equally excited about it, and we could get some momentum going and some resources behind it.
There's also a book available through OPSIG, isn't there? I purchased that book. That's a brilliant reference book that I keep and I often look at.
Yes, and there's actually a couple. So there's other resources at OPSIG too. And if you go to the OPSIG main website, that's www.opsig.org. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a members directory, which is very potent because there's a lot of us. There's other publications that are available for download. One of which, I'm not sure if there's one you're referring to, Paul, is 19 Copy 3 East, which is a great operations book, one of the great books. One of our projects is actually the third edition of the book is going to be published in not too long. The second edition is on the website and available for download, but it's a long book, and not everybody wants to print out a 180-page PDF or whatever it is. So that's one of the other things we're doing, is that we're going to be publishing a new hardcover version of the book. And we're lucky enough to have the original authors involved in bringing it up to date and fixing a few things and updating a few things. So we're very excited about that as well. So yes, there are, I don't mean to ignore the significant resources at OPSIG, but yes, lately the energy has been on the new project.
I think the other point too I was going to make, which you spoke about earlier, is when you bring new operators to certainly to my layout, the best thing to occur is I hand them the protothrottle, I give them the operating rules, and I say, go for it, operate. For me, the pleasure is seeing people gain experience, enjoy operating a layout without having tension or being worried they're going to do the wrong thing. I think as a layout owner, the onus is also on not just having good operations, but also it being a training ground for future operators. And I'm pretty passionate about that. That whenever someone comes, the first thing I do is say, "Here's the throttle. Go and operate."
I often think about the journey of kids and baseball. The baseball rule book is a lot like railroad rule books. Everything's that ever has happened is memorialized. And you could spend a lot of time with the Major League Baseball rule book and you'd never play. It's very daunting, the whole thing. But then you can see, particularly, I don't know about the Australia scene, but particularly here in America, kids and bats and balls, and you're 5 or 6 or 7 or 9 years old, go hit the ball, right? And the kids run counterclockwise. They run clockwise instead of counterclockwise, or whatever it may be. And then being in the game, you start to say, oh, there's a rule for that. Oh, I'm not supposed to. Oh, because you started by playing and then you got enlightenment from your playing. It's the same, right? It's the same. You got to get into the game. Someone has to unlock the door and hand you a throttle, just like you described, and also create a safety net. Because even though you describe something very simple, handing them a throttle, you're probably giving them a little briefing about forward and reverse. You're giving them a little briefing about the speed at which a model train runs, not like the Lionel set you see on TV, on the movies or whatever. So there is a little bit of hand-holding required. And then the person goes out and plays a little bit, and they're going to naturally learn. How do you gently couple cars together? How do you get permission to go the other direction? That's where it begins. And it has to be a place. We can't do anything about what the layout owner chooses. And I certainly know layout owners who don't welcome newbies because they like to have their regular team. They'd like the layout to run a certain way, and that's totally fine. But what you've hit on is the same thing that I've enjoyed. It sounds like, Ray, maybe you too, this opportunity to bring people along. They appreciate it so much. And sure enough, what we know, just like I told you the story about the guy I forced into it, by the time they're into it, it's like, oh, thank goodness you showed me this.
Layout owner listening right now were to bring somebody in and try to nurture them, what would be some of your suggestions to them about jobs they should hand out, instructions they should give, pairing? What would you say would be some of the best things that they can do to make sure that person's going to be as excited as that gentleman that you mentioned that you brought into it?
It's a great question. And there's probably 100 answers, and we only have 4 or 5 hours, right? So the way I've been doing it is just my way of doing it, and everyone's going to have their own way. But certainly, first of all, I have a layout that's almost always 2-man crews. So when I've brought somebody in, and for our operating sessions, it's sort of a big event, and I can't sit with the person for a whole 6 hours. It's impossible, right? But I know who among my regulars is both knowledgeable and has the kind of personality of sort of a gentle, kindly, maybe school teacher or something. So you could easily pair up a newbie with an experienced person. That experienced person is the kind of personality that they're turning their back or they're grabbing the throttle or whatever, right? So to the extent that you know your regulars and can curate an experience that's just, and I'll say to the experienced fellow, hey, this is a newbie, make sure they have a good day. I have yet to run into someone who's not happy to take on that role. And I think layout owners, they've spent a lot of money, right? They've spent a lot of time. This is their baby. And they have this visual in their head that someone's going to come in and do something radical, break something or behave badly or whatever. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of operators about this. And some people have a story about that one guy who just didn't have a sense of humor or something, was rude. Okay, I've had a couple of those over the years too. Nothing was broken, nothing serious, but I don't really invite them back because they just wasn't a fit. But there's a fear that I think a lot of owners have if they're used to a regular group of bringing people in. So bring them in little by little, one at a time, pair them with someone who's got the right kind of personality and the right kind of knowledge, and make sure that the person knows it's no big deal. You're not going to break anything. If it's fancy brass engines, maybe you don't want to pick them up, right? Maybe let the layout owner do that. But otherwise, people are, human nature is in general highly respectful guests who are eager to learn.
Yeah, which also brings you to another responsibility of a new layout operator, which is to make sure that you're following all those rules.
Yes.
So I guess I've just been looking at your site. So tell us more about the achievement program, because it looks quite interesting.
Yes, we've spent a lot of time putting together a program, and we're very biased. We like it. That's what happens when you build a layout that you put a lot of time in. That's what happens when you build a program you put a lot of time in. A lot of us who are involved in designing the program have been doing this for a long time. And when you put together a group of people who've been doing it for a long time and you start to have this brainstorming around how do we want to build this, it results in some very interesting and positive and exciting conversations. And where we ended up with the achievement program, I'm going to say that there's 12 areas of study. It's maybe 13. There's more to the, okay, but let's just, for the purpose of today, say there's effectively 12 areas of study. So to sit around with these gentlemen who helped design the program and talk about what is it that we want people to get immersed in the hobby? How can the hobby benefit? How can the people benefit? So we wanted to design these 12 areas of study that spanned all kinds of different aspects of our hobby and had a threshold of achievement necessary for you to get recognized. It's also interesting to try to straddle the wide range of members and experiences that they have. One of our awards is for hosting. We believe if you've hosted a number of times, then you start to have perspective on the job, on the opportunity. And I'm a stressed out host. It really matters to me. I spend the week before, at least a week before, really, really, really prepping, paperwork, all of it, right? Because I really want people to have a first class experience. And my contemporaries, my colleagues will all say, this guy's nuts, right? In terms of getting ready, right? Nevertheless, where we landed at for the hosting award is 5 sessions, and you start to have perspective on it. As people apply, some people apply and say, well, I've had 700 sessions. Okay, so fair enough. You pass, you're verified, and you're acknowledged for the 700. But interestingly, on the other end of the spectrum, as you're starting to describe earlier, Paul, there are some who haven't done one, right? And now with an achievement program, and as Ray described, it's going a little bit viral, and some of the badges are finally arriving, at people's homes, and the award certificates are arriving. Someone who is very involved in the program, one of our trustees, just got his set of buttons. He earned 10 based on his massive experience. And he's at an operating session today, sporting the button, and people are asking him. So yes, it's got that quality of being recognized, and people are going to say, oh, wow, I could get recognized. I've never hosted before. Maybe I should think about that. And maybe in your group, Paul, there are people who say, hey, Paul, I see this award thing. That seems kind of cool. 5 sessions. What's a session? How do I begin? What's the, so by kind of dangling this carrot a little bit, it's not a $10,000 prize or anything like that, but it's a cool recognition. Dangle that a little bit. And I can already see from the feedback we have, people are reaching in some of these areas saying, well, to get the highest designation, you need to achieve 8 of those individual category awards. We look at the numbers so far, there's been 250 submissions in
Wow.
2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So, I mean, they're coming in at a very rapid rate. And we kind of predicted, and you can kind of see it happening. A lot of us have been hosts. A lot of us have gone to operating sessions and traveled around. A lot of us have done, the basics. But there's fewer people so far right out of the playbook. Fewer people that have done the mentoring, fewer people that have done the volunteering, fewer people that have written an article or made a video or a blog or whatever. And I could see people saying, well, I've got 4 and I want to get 8. Maybe I need to mentor somebody, or maybe I need to volunteer. And that's where we hope to add a lot of value, because they will love doing it. And then we'll have an even more robust community than we have. And it's really neat the way these pieces are kind of fitting together. Ray, already you're qualified for the author badge, because we have podcasts underneath that, and you've done this plenty. And all you need to do, and I'll be looking for it tomorrow morning, Ray, all you need to do is get on the site, go to the author category, fill out a little bit about your background, and sure enough, within a couple days, it'll be awarded and you get a certificate and this pretty cool author button. But then also you probably have, like a lot of us, probably have also traveled, you've hosted, blah, 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 and then suddenly you're on your way.
And I'm the exec producer of the podcast too, so that's got to count,
Absolutely.
right?
I think that we hadn't contemplated that precisely. Right.
Well, we're going to have to discuss what the qualifications of that one is and if it qualifies for author or not. But we'll talk offline, Paul Weiss. So you and I will chat about that.
I'll let you guys fight that out. But you've hit on something that's also very important, right? And we talk about this. This is a program that was written by members of our community for members of our community, right? So there isn't some strange monolithic corporate headquarters where you're whatever. This is us. This is me. And everybody knows that I'm chairing the program.
Hey, Future Ray here. Since recording this episode, Paul Weiss has confirmed that an operations-related article submitted and published in ATLP Extra, our free monthly newsletter, may count towards your OPSIG author achievement. So fire up your keyboard and give us at least 400 words on an operations-related topic, then head to atlpextra.com to submit it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at aroundthelayout@gmail.com. I can't wait to see what you're going to write about. Now, back to the show.
And so I get questions directly to me. Would this count? How do I do this? What is whatever? And we really wanted to have, not my ugly face, thank God there's a podcast, but we wanted to have a personalized program. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We are having fun with it. And we have heard stories, in some of the categories. Hey, would this count? The answer is not always yes, but there's a conversation about it. And that's the beauty of it. We've had to reject some applications, of course, because that's the nature of these things. But it's not like, hey, you're a loser, right? It's like, hey, here's what's missing compared to the program design. What can we do to help you get it? Or can you go back? Or can you do one more of the thing? That kind of thing. It's very collaborative and friendly and gentle, and I like that part.
Yeah, it's encouraging. It's a move you can do forward and continue to aim for those things. So let's talk about some of these levels that you have here. You mentioned a few of them, but let's talk about a few others and what they mean and kind of what it takes to accomplish them. I noticed OPSIG Boomer, which was kind of an interesting name, and I see it's got a suitcase with a bunch of stickers on it. Tell us about OPSIG Boomer and what it takes to achieve that program.
Absolutely. Importantly, we do understand, and this is part of why we've designed a program with 12 or more categories, and the achievement, the Eagle Scout equivalent, is what we call the Operations Ninja. And the Ninja's got a cool logo that we designed and all that, right? So with 8 out of 12, not each one is going to be for everybody. The Boomer, I say that because what we visualize here, we all know that it's a common thing to go to these operating weekends. They're hosted by groups all over our country. I hope you're doing it in Australia too, which I'm learning through Facebook is a very robust part of our community. And you go to these places in the States. It might be, we have Bay Rails that I'm involved with here in Northern California, and there's events all over. I've done it a large number of times, and I know a lot of people who have done it a large number of times. When you travel out there and go to one of these dedicated weekends, you will have a heck of an operating experience. One, because you'll sample several layouts. Two, because they're away from your home area, and they may have practices or things that the guys at home don't necessarily do. Furthermore, half the fun happens at the bar afterwards or breakfast, the in between sessions or whatever, where you get to meet people from other areas and learn about their own operating journey, so you could take that on board. So we think it is noteworthy to do a number of these operating weekends. We're looking for people to attend 3, and the same thing has happened. People have written in and said, I've attended 400. Okay, fine. You're recognized. But for the people who haven't done it, again, that's an aspirational thing, right? And several of the events are open. Some are by invitation and you can request, and some are closed. But some are open and publicized, and you can read. We have a new calendar that we just rolled out on the OPSIG main website, which has all the events coming up for like 18 months, right? So you can actually take out the list and say, I want to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because that's an event, or making that up, but wherever it may be, I want to go. I have to be mobile. I have to afford a plane ticket. That's why I know it's not for everybody. But for those who are able and willing to do it, they're going to have a great time and have a great experience. And if they've done it 3 times in 3 different places, they've really learned some stuff, and we want to recognize that.
You explained about being a boomer. What type of evidence do you need to provide to get that? Is it people verifying that you were there at an operating session, or I guess that's half the challenge, isn't it?
Well, certainly our journey so far in hosting the program, if you will, is that people have, without too much nudging, provided really spectacular documentation about what they've done, right? So again, the gentleman who may have done it several hundred times, it's a small community. We know who they are. We've probably seen them dozens of those times. So it's a nearly automatic verification. Other people who have done it less often tend to have strong recollection and copious notes. And so the application might be as simple as, I went to this one last year, I went to this one last year, and I just went to this one, and then you're on your way. So there has been only a little bit of people reaching, I did that job a lot, but it's been years and I'm not sure. That's a little soft for us, but it's not a licensing kind of thing where we need to intensely verify. But also I could take a second and answer what I think is another important question about the Boomer thing, that there's many benefits from an award like this, not only encouraging individuals to do it who haven't done it before, but it can really be good in 2 other ways. One is, I got to tell you, in case you haven't noticed, we're getting a little bit older, right? So some of these long-standing operating weekends are anecdotally seeing a little bit of a decline in attendance. So to the extent that we can provide a pipeline of new attendees, that's really good. And so too, there are communities, regions of the country where they've gone dormant on these kind of operating weekends, or, Australia. I can't talk about the landscape there, of course, but it's possible somebody will look at the Boomer thing and say, why aren't we doing this here in East Mucky Muck, New Jersey? We have layouts. We could start this journey of having an operating weekend. And frankly, if you've got a few decent layouts for operating in a 75 or 100-mile radius, that's the beginning of the critical mass to have an operating weekend. So this gets fed from all different directions. And I think the overarching theme maybe of the whole program is a little more connection, a little more enlightenment, and a little more of an on-ramp for some of these things where there was no reason or way to do it before.
I'm definitely a fan of that. I love these operating weekends, and the more the merrier, and the more that we can get people involved in not only hosting, but then being able to host in a manner where we get to go away for a few days, operate a bunch of layouts all in the same weekend, or however the event is scheduled or coordinated. It's definitely better for all of us to be able to connect that way. So it's an absolute blast.
I'll really encourage you, Ray. I didn't mean to step on you there, but to take a look at the OPSIG calendar itself at the OPSIG main website. One of the issues, it's a lowercase I issue. A lot of the long-time operators know what's going on. They talk to each other. There's various lists and so forth and so on, but it's all been decentralized. And we've really come to believe and taken it upon ourselves that there should be one go-to calendar. Whether or not we're the go-to calendar depends on whether or not other people think of it that way. We want to try to create a calendar, and we have finally finished our work. Al Dahman, who many people know, is very involved in putting this information together in cooperation with us so we could get it up on the OPSIG website. So now, I'm going to say for the first time, at the risk of offending people, and I don't mean to, right? But I know as a consumer of that information, I really feel it's all in one place for the first time, right? And of course, for those of us who are going to travel around, you have wives or babies or grandparents or whatever it is, it has to fit into the rest of your life. And if you have the ability to look at October of 2026, you can start to say, I'm going to put that one down and I'm going to try to plan around it. That by itself, I think, is a huge addition. and to understand that there's a number of events on there that are wide open to people. Again, this is a feature of OPSIG, so you do have to be a member to access the calendar, but there's a lot of us, right? And I think that's really going to be a powerful thing to have one place to go to plan some travel to these very exciting events.
I'm looking at 12 levels here. Paul, what do you think is the toughest one to be able to get that button put on your collar?
Well, that's easy, Ray. I mean, thank you for a softball, speaking about baseball, softball question. And the good news is that people are eagerly awaiting the one piece that's not quite complete. Our OPSIG annual meeting was a couple of weeks ago when we wanted to launch the program. It had been teased a little bit, and people were starting to knock on the door a little bit. We decided to go ahead and launch with one piece that's incomplete. And that's number one on the list. It's called the Conductor and Engineer, right? The Conductor and Engineer, obviously, by the very description of it, it's one of the most important jobs in operating because it is so frequently needed. There's so many conductors and engineers at any session, large or small, it's disproportionate. And as we talk about training the newbie, very quickly you get to a point where you understand that the basic training, I use the baseball analogy, there's certain things you really have to know when you're no longer kids with basically a bat and a ball, right? There's certain things you need to know to be able to play. For the conductor and engineer, there's two ways that we imagine you will get the knowledge that you need. One is going to 10 operating sessions. Just being out there in the field with a throttle or alongside someone who's got a throttle, you're going to learn how this works. But we wanted a little more serious aspect to it. So we do have an exam that you need to pass to be a conductor and engineer. That exam is also a prerequisite. Therefore, the C&E, the Conductor and Engineer Award, is a prerequisite to this big ninja designation. We want everybody who's serious about this to take the exam. It will be approximately 60 questions, multiple choice. There'll be a study guide. It's not an exam that's designed to break anybody. It's also not an exam like a prototype railroad exam because someone's going to die out there. It's just a body of knowledge we feel you should know, some of the TT and TO rules, some signal stuff and some whistle stuff, and just this not entry-level stuff. You have to read it to pass, but people are going to have to pass if they want to advance all the way in the program. I want to be clear that the 12, you could pick any of the 12, you could do whatever you want. You don't have to take an exam. But if you're after the big award, the Ninja, you do have to pass the exam. We're putting the finishing touches on it now. I have a draft actually on my laptop that I've been working on all day. There's a committee of people who know a lot about rules that are participating in curating this so we get it exactly right. And the launch for that is expected to be September. So that's going to be a little bit of a threshold for people to pass, but we're going to design something. I've said this in other forums too. The very experienced people among us won't have a big problem with the exam and can probably take it cold. The newbies are going to have some reading to do because these are things that they don't know and there's new concepts, but it won't be difficult. It will require a little bit of work.
And that makes it an achievement, right? If you've got to put some effort in.
That's right. That's right.
And what is required to participate in this whole process? So obviously there's some pre-entry required.
Well, the bar is very low. The OPSIG membership, and as I mentioned, at the lowest level, it's $10 a year. So that's it. You know, and becoming an OPSIG member just requires signing up, and it's easy and simple. What's really required, though, not written but necessary, is that you're interested in this and you're passionate about it. Otherwise, why bother? So we have found that, yes, we're talking, much like we talk up operations, we're talking up the program. It's not a hard sell because a lot of people like the idea of having an organized way to learn and to grow. Other people have said, not interested, don't want to do it. That's fine. It doesn't matter, right? But for those who are interested, it really is a self-perpetuating thing. And I think that's because they came in with the kind of personality that they want to grow, they're excited to be recognized, and they're excited to learn some things. That's the biggest prerequisite of all.
Well, awesome. Why don't you tell us, Paul, how we find all the information on joining OPSIG and then, of course, the OPSIG AP program?
Absolutely. So just to keep it simple, we have actually made it slightly more complex. That's my fault. But there are 2 websites to note. I mentioned the main OPSIG website, where the membership stuff, the magazine, all the resources, the membership directory, all the things that you would expect from a membership organization are there. And then on the other side, we've decided to peel off the achievement program just for logistics. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of changes. It's a very dynamic site. That site is OPSIG, OPSIG hyphen AP for achievement program.org. Immediately when you land on the achievement program website, you'll see right in front of you all the different awards are displayed. And so you can click on any one that you want and go right to that page, which tells you what the requirements are. Also, there's a welcome video, which I would really encourage people to watch, that sort of describes some of the things we're talking about today. Unfortunately, they have to suffer through my narration of the whole thing. But once you've overcome that, I hope there's a lot of useful information in there. So even people that are just kind of dabbling and not sure about the whole thing, show up at the Achievement Program's website, give the video a click, and just give us a chance to tell you a little bit about how it works.
Well, awesome. Again, opsig-ap.org, and we'll also provide links on our website, aroundthelayout.com/177. Paul Weiss from the OPSIG joining us. Thank you, Paul, so much for coming by and telling us all about the OPSIG AP program.
I tell you, I'm overjoyed to be included. This is a great program, and I'm so grateful you spent some time on this. And by great program, I'm talking about Around the Layout. I think Achievement Program also potentially is great, but thanks for having me on Around the Layout. We love it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.